Hello, I'm Paige, and together we're diving into a powerful and transformative concept, inclusive education. Whether you're an educator, parent, policymaker, or simply passionate about equality, this topic affects us all, especially here in South Africa. In our classrooms, homes, and communities, we have so many wonderful and different learners, with each carrying their own story. So, if we have such fantastically different people, why are we trying to fit them into the same boring box? Today, I'd like to take you on a bit of a journey, looking at how inclusive education has changed over time. It's not just some big ideas, it's all about making sure every learner, no matter their ability, background, or situation, gets a fair shot in the classroom. But things aren't always like this. So let's take a step back and see how much things have changed and where we still need to go. For a long time, education was only for a select group of people. If you had a disability or were seen as different, you were usually kept out of schools, sent to special institutions, or just denied any education. Back in the early 1900s, most people thought segregation was best. Special schools popped up, but all they really did was separate kids from society and limit what they could achieve. People thought keeping kids apart would help them, but all it really did was make the stigma worse and stop millions from being able to learn alongside their friends. Things started to shift in the 1950s and 60s when civil rights movements around the world started challenging all kinds of exclusion, including in schools. This was when people began to push for all their kids to be allowed in their local schools and regular classrooms. Integration was a big step forward. Kids with disabilities started joining mainstream schools, but they often didn't get the support or acceptance that they needed. The focus was just on being there, not really about being included. It's like a seed being planted in a garden, but no one waters it or cares for it, so it can't grow. Fast forward to the late 20th century. And we saw a real change. It wasn't just about having everyone in the same classroom anymore. It was about making sure everyone was supported and valued for who they are. Inclusion is about way more than just sharing the same space. It means changing how we teach, adapting what we use, and creating communities where every student feels like they truly belong. The dream is a system where diversity is celebrated and everyone's strengths are seen and appreciated. A lot of important laws and agreements helped us get here. For example, in 1975, the United States introduced the Education for All Handicapped Children's Act, later called IDEA, which made sure kids with disabilities had a right to education in the least restrictive environment. This was a big promise to families, no more leaving their children out. On the global front, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, adopted in 2006, made it clear that everyone has the right to inclusive education. Countries all over the world started changing their policies to make this real. Then there was the Salamanca Statement in 1994, where leaders came together to say that schools should be for everyone, no matter their abilities or backgrounds. They agreed that inclusive schools are the best way to fight against discrimination and build a better society. Here in South Africa, the move to inclusive education really picked up after apartheid ended. Our Constitution of 1996 promises basic education to everyone, and the South African Schools Act works to make schools open and fair. Then the Education White Paper 6 of 2001 set out the plan to make sure all learners, including those with special needs, are included. I won't lie. This journey hasn't been easy. It's taken some incredibly brave people to stand up and say, every child deserves a spot in class. Their courage really paved the way. We've got to remember that fighting for inclusive education is part of the bigger fight of equality and human rights. These trailblazers show us that real progress takes persistence, advocacy, and a genuine belief that every learner has potential. South Africa's journey towards inclusive education is deeply shaped by its unique history and the struggle for equality. During the apartheid era, education was segregated and unequal, with children divided by race and many denied access to appropriate schooling, especially those with disabilities. It took extraordinary determination and activism by individuals, families, and organizations to challenge these injustices and demand a fairer system for all. After the end of the apartheid in the 1990s, South Africa made significant commitments to transform its education system. The Constitution of 1996 enshrined the right to basic education for everyone, regardless of background or reality. The South African Schools Act further opened schools' doors, stressing non-discrimination and equal opportunity for all learners. But the real turning point came with the Education White Paper 6 in 2001, a blueprint for building a truly inclusive education system. This policy recognized that many learners were being left out, not just because of disabilities, but because of poverty, language, and other barriers. The White Paper 6 called for support structures, teacher training, and community involvement to create schools that welcome and accommodate everyone. We've got to remember that fighting for inclusive education is part of the bigger fight for equality and human rights. Progress has involved both big legislative changes and everyday efforts by teachers, parents, and learners themselves. Many South African educators have become innovators, finding new ways to adapt lessons and environments so that learners with diverse needs can succeed. Advocacy groups and disability rights organizations have pushed for better resources, accessibility facilities, and ongoing reform. South Africa's journey is still unfolding, but each step forward honors the voices of those who refuse to accept exclusion. Their stories remind us that inclusive education is not just a policy, it's a movement that changes lives and strengthens communities. We've come a long way, but there are still some bumps on the road, #potholes. There are barriers like buildings that aren't accessible, a lack of resources, and old school ways of thinking. But you know what? Teachers, families, and communities are still pushing for change every single day. Inclusion isn't a finish line, it's an ongoing journey. We're always learning, adapting, and growing together. And honestly, the future of an inclusive education depends on all of us. Our willingness to listen, to try new things, and to keep building spaces where everyone can shine. So as we look back on this journey from segregation to inclusion, let's honor the people who led the way, celebrate the wins, and commit to building schools where every single learner feels like they belong. Once again, I'd like to remind you, belonging starts with us. I'll see you next time. Bye.